Hello custom collectors and welcome to a new video. In today's video I'm going to show you how I prepared this Hulk Gladiator model from CG Trader to look like this. I decided to do this statue in two parts. This one will be getting it ready for painting and the next one will be the painting process itself. So I will show you what I did with the original 3D model and the 3D printed parts to get rid of all the printing lines. Because I want to go for a quarter scale statue, I first had to rescale the figure because the original model was only 200 millimeters tall. So in the foreground you can see the original size and in the background the rescaled size. But with rescaling I had the problem that the resolution of the original model that you can see on the right side here was not good enough. So I imported the model in Blender, added a subdivision modifier, and then I had the left model with a lot smoother surfaces. And next, because the model was then way too big for my Ender 3, I used Mesh Mixer to cut up the original 5 pieces into 11. And here you can see a print info, so all in all it took me 1.8 kilograms of PLA filament, and it took 316 hours, so 13 days of non-stop printing. And then this was the result. To save some time, I printed the bigger parts in a lower quality, which you can see here. I had a lot of printing lines, and now the biggest challenge will be to get rid of them. First of all, I tried using a rotary tool with a wire brush. That was something I saw in another YouTube video, but I wasn't really satisfied with the outcome. So it took away something from the surface, but it just wasn't enough. That's why I switched over to sanding with an ordinary file and sandpaper. And for the very large and flat parts I used a delta sander. And the goal of this step is to get rid of the roughest printing lines. Once I was done sanding all of the parts, I started gluing them back together. For the flat surfaces, like you can see here, you can use cyanoacrylate, so ordinary superglue. And then the parts just need to be pressed together for a few seconds. If your contact area is not flat though, like you can see here, you will have a problem with superglue because it won't hold together. What works much better is a 2-component epoxy. To let the epoxy cure, you just need to hold the two parts in place for 20 minutes. I repeated the same process for the right biceps. And as a reinforcement, I used a soldering iron to basically weld together the two parts. After I have done that for all the parts, the next problem was that there was a design flaw in the original model. So you can see the waist here, and there was an undercut. And this undercut prevented the upper and lower torso to connect. With the rotary tool I basically milled away the excessive material until I was able to put the upper torso into the lower torso. By doing that I created a few holes in the material that I filled with milliput. The right shoulder also had very rough printing lines, and I used a little bit of milliput to cover them up. Then I used Vallejo plastic putty, first of all to put a bit of putty into all of the welding lines. And then I used a brush and basically painted the putty all over the figure. And since Hulk didn't come with a pair of undies, I thought I'd spend him a pair using Milliput. In order to being able to snap the parts together later on, I wanted to install magnets. So I drilled holes in all of the provided keys. And then I started the first round of wet sanding all of the parts using a 270 sandpaper. And because the 3D print is hollow inside, I stuck a little bit of Milliput inside the keys so the magnet can stay on something. And then I used the 2-component epoxy again to hold the magnets into place. On the left arm there was a pretty big gap between forearm and biceps, so I again used a little bit of Milliput to get rid of that. And after some sculpting and letting everything dry, this is how it turned out. And now it was time to coat all of the parts with plastic primer. And after that was done, I used spray filler on all of the parts. As convenient as spray filler is, you will always lose some detail with every coat of it. That's why I used masking tape for the axe and the helmet to protect the small details to get covered up by the spray filler. Here you can see how the surface looked like after the first or second coat of spray filler. You can clearly see the print lines, a little bit of over-extruded filament, and a few holes in the material. The over-extrusion can be easily cut away with a sharp knife. For holes in the material, I switched from Vallejo putty to Tamiya putty. The Vallejo putty keeps a kind of gummy texture even after curing. So when you sand it, it's possible that you rip out larger pieces. I applied the putty with a toothpick. Here you can see Hulk's foot enjoying a little pedicure. And now all you have to do is repeat the process of spray filler and sanding until you are satisfied with the surface. Here you can see how the print lines are vanishing from 2 coats of spray filler on the left side to 5 or even 6 on the right side. On the other hand, you can also see that the details are blurred out a little bit. But that is something you cannot prevent. In the end, it took me 4 cans of spray filler, that's 1.6 liters, until I was satisfied with the surface. And this is a model prepared for painting, which you will see in the next video. If you like this video, please like, comment and subscribe. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.